Lieutenant Kita stood at the viewing window of the Galactic Alliance marine vessel Stalwart Dawn, watching the stars drift by. He was the only human on board, part of a new exchange program between Earth's military forces and the Galactic Alliance. The ship's metal deck felt cold under his boots, reminding him that everything here was made for beings from gentler worlds than Earth. Behind him, he could hear the whispers of the alien Marines. They thought their translator devices were turned off, but Kite's enhanced hearing implant picked up their words clearly. "Look at how thick his bones are," one Marine said. "Their world must be a nightmare to produce creatures like that. I heard they drink poison for fun. They call it coffee," another added. Kita smiled to himself. 3 months into his deployment, and they still talked about him like he was some kind of monster. He didn't mind. Their fear meant they kept their distance, which gave him space to do his job. Commander Nexus walked onto the bridge. The tall, silver-skinned alien moved with the grace typical of his species. Like all luminary, his movements were smooth and precise, evolved for a world with 1/3 of Earth's gravity. "Lieutenant Kita," Nexus called out, his translator making his voice sound almost musical. "Your presence is required at the tactical display." Kita turned and walked to the center of the bridge. The other Marines stepped back, creating a small circle around him. The tactical display showed a section of space near the border of Alliance territory. "We received this distress signal from Research Station 7, Nexus explained, playing the message. A calm voice spoke through the speakers. "This is Research Station 7. We have experienced a complete power failure. Request immediate assistance. No casualties reported. Station structure intact." Something about the message made Kite's combat instincts tingle. He had learned to trust these feelings during his years in Earth's special forces. "Permission to speak freely, Commander?" Kite asked. Nexus nodded. "Granted." "The message is wrong," Kita said. "Listen to the background." He played the message again. This time, everyone listened more carefully. "There's no emergency lighting alarm," Kita explained. "Every station has backup power that triggers emergency lights during a complete power failure. We should hear the alert tone." The alien Marines looked at each other. They had missed this detail entirely. "Also," Kita continued, "the message is too calm. I've heard real distress calls. People who lose all power on a space station don't sound that relaxed. They're usually breathing hard from having to use manual systems." Commander Nexus's silver skin shifted color slightly, showing his concern. "What are you suggesting, Lieutenant?" "It's a trap," Kita said simply. "Someone wants to lure Alliance Marines to that station." The bridge fell silent. The alien Marines might not have liked having a human aboard, but they couldn't deny his experience with combat situations. "Your reputation for paranoia is well known, Lieutenant," Nexus said. "However, in this case, your instincts may be correct. Still, we must investigate. Station 7 contains valuable research data." Kita nodded. "I agree, sir, but we should go in prepared for combat, not a rescue mission." "Assemble a squad," Nexus ordered. "Lieutenant Kita, you'll join them. Your unique perspectives may be valuable." As Kita left the bridge to gear up, he heard Medical Officer Jai-Yun's voice on his personal communicator. She was the only other human on the ship, though she worked in a different department. "Kita, be careful," she said in Korean, their private language that the ship's translators couldn't handle. "I've been studying the station's research logs. They were working on something dangerous." "Dangerous how?" Kite asked, also in Korean. "Biological weapons research, looking for ways to fight the Ravager pirates. If someone attacked that station." Keita understood her concern. The Ravager pirates were known for stealing weapons and turning them against their creators. "Thanks for the warning. Keep the medical bay ready, just in case." In the armory, Keita put on his combat suit. The alien Marines watched as he added extra armor plates to his gear. To them, the added weight would have been crippling. To him, It was a comfortable reminder of Earth's heavier gravity. "Why do you wear so much armor?" asked one of the younger Marines, Sentinel. "It will slow you down." "On Earth," Keitad explained while checking his weapon, "we have a saying, better heavy than dead." The alien Marines exchanged glances. They could never understand how humans could function under such weight, just as they could never understand many things about Earth's Deathworlders. Commander Nexus entered the armory. "Squad assembled. We approach Station 7 in 20 minutes. Lieutenant Kita, you'll take point with Sentinel. Your enhanced senses might detect threats our scanners miss." Keita nodded, performing one final check of his gear. The weight of his armor was reassuring, but something else weighed on him more heavily: the certainty that they were walking into danger. As the squad prepared to board their assault shuttle, Keita caught sight of Jai-Yun in the medical bay. She was preparing emergency supplies, her movements quick and efficient. Their eyes met briefly, and they shared a look of understanding. Whatever waited for them on Station 7, it wouldn't be a simple power failure. The assault shuttle hummed to life, its engines barely making a sound by human standards. To Keita, used to the roar of Earth's more powerful but less advanced ships, it felt almost too quiet, like the calm before a storm. Commander Nexus addressed the squad. "Remember your training. Watch for anything unusual. And," he paused, looking at Keita, "listen to your instincts." The shuttle detached from the stalwart Dawn, carrying them toward the silent research station. Through the viewport, Keita could see the station's dark shape against the star-filled background. No emergency lights, no sign of life, just darkness, waiting. Keita checked his weapon one more time, an old habit from his Earth training. The alien Marines might have thought humans were primitive, but sometimes primitive instincts were exactly what you needed to stay alive. As they approached the station's docking port, Keita's enhanced hearing picked up something the ship's sensors missed: a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from inside the station. It wasn't machinery. It was too irregular, too deliberate. Someone was alive in there, sending a message. And they were about to find out what it meant. The docking port of Research Station 7 opened with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Keita led the squad into the dark corridor, his enhanced vision adapting quickly to the low light. Behind him, the alien Marines activated their light sources, creating sharp beams that cut through the darkness. "No emergency lights," Commander Nexus noted, confirming Keita's earlier observation. "Power systems are completely offline." Keita raised his hand, signaling the squad to stop. The tapping sound he had heard earlier was clearer now. 3 quick taps, followed by 2 slow ones, then repeated. He recognized the pattern. It was an old Earth military distress code. "Someone's alive," Keita whispered. "They're using Morse code, an Earth communication method." Sentinel, the young alien Marine, moved closer. "What does it say?" "It's repeating one word. Trap." The squad tensed. Commander Nexus gestured for them to form a defensive circle. "Can you locate the source?" Keita pointed down the main corridor. "Central hub. About 200 meters ahead." Medical Officer Jai-Yun's voice came through their communicators. "Be careful. I'm detecting trace amounts of biological agents in the station's air. Nothing immediately dangerous, but something's not right." They moved forward slowly, checking each intersection and doorway. Keita noticed strange marks on the walls. Claw marks, but not from any species he recognized. The metal was warped as if it had been partially melted. "Look at this," one of the alien Marines said, pointing to a security terminal. The last log entry was cut off mid-sentence. Keita examined the screen. The final words read, "They're changing. The specimens are changing. We need tow." A soft sound caught his attention, the gentle pat of liquid hitting the floor. Keita looked up. Dark drops were falling from a ventilation shaft above them. He reached out and caught one on his armored glove, then activated his suit's analysis system. "Blood," he reported. But it's been altered. There are unknown compounds in it. Commander Nexus raised his weapon. Biological weapons research. The pirates must have found what they were looking for. They reached the central hub, a large circular room with multiple levels. The tapping sound was louder here, but something was wrong. It wasn't coming from one location anymore. It was coming from everywhere. It's being played through the station's speaker system. Kite realized. A recording. Sentinel scanner beeped. Life signs. Multiple signatures, but they're strange. Not reading as any known species. The tapping stopped. In the sudden silence, Kita heard something else. Breathing. Heavy, ragged breathing coming from the shadows above them. His enhanced vision caught movement in the darkness. Contact. Kita shouted, raising his weapon. The first attacker dropped from the ceiling. It might have once been a Ravager pirate, but its body was grotesquely altered. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and its movements were too fast, too fluid for its size. The alien Marines opened fire, their energy weapons striking the creature, but instead of falling, it seemed to absorb the energy, its metallic skin glowing brightly. Weapons ineffective. Commander Nexus called out, "Fall back, Toe." More creatures dropped from above, surrounding the squad. Kita switched his weapon to projectile mode, an old-fashioned auction the aliens had mocked during training. The solid rounds tore through the creature's metallic skin, proving far more effective than energy weapons. Use physical ammunition, Kita ordered, tossing spare magazines to the nearest Marines. Some of them fumbled with the unfamiliar weapons, their bodies not used to dealing with recoil. Jayem's voice crackled through the comm. Those creatures, they're showing signs of both organic and metallic properties. The pirates must have combined their biological weapons with nanomachines. The fight became chaos. The alien Marines, trained for precision combat, struggled against enemies that ignored their usual tactics. But Kita's Earth combat training had prepared him for messy, close-quarters battles. He moved through the fight with practiced efficiency, each movement serving multiple purposes. A dodge became a counterattack. A reload provided cover for a teammate. The alien Marines watched in amazement as the human moved with a fluid grace they had never seen before. "How do you fight like that?" Sentinel asked, firing at a creature trying to flank them. "Earth animals," Kita explained between shots. "We learned to fight by watching predators. Every movement has to count." Commander Nexus ordered the squad to form a defensive position near one of the exits. The creatures seemed to be hurting them, trying to cut off their escape routes. Kita noticed patterns in their movements. They weren't just attacking randomly. "They're still intelligent," he warned. "They're using tactics." As if to prove his point, several creatures began working together, using their bodies as shields while others tried to break through the Marines' defense. Kita spotted something in their behavior that the aliens missed. They were protecting one particular corridor. "They're guarding something," he said to Commander Nexus. "That passage leads to the main research lab." Nexus nodded. "Whatever created these creatures must be there. We need to reach it." "I'll make an opening," Kita said. He pulled out a device the aliens had never seen before. A simple flashbang grenade. "Cover your eyes." The explosion of light and sound disoriented the creatures, their enhanced senses working against them. Kita charged through the gap, his heavier Earth-adapted muscles allowing him to bowl through the stunned enemies. The alien Marines followed, amazed by the effectiveness of such basic technology. They'd reached the research lab's entrance, but the door was sealed. "Stand back," Kita said. He pulled out a small pack of Earth explosives, another primitive tool that was proving its worth. The door blew inward, and they entered the lab. What they found inside made even Kita's trained nerves shiver. The walls were covered with growth that was both organic and metallic, pulsing with an inner light. And in the center of the room stood a figure that could only be the Ravager pirate leader. It turned to face them, its body a horrific fusion of flesh, metal, and something else, something that seemed to bend the light around it. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "Welcome," it said. "We've been waiting for test subjects." Keitai raised his weapon, but he knew this fight was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Behind him, the alien Marines readied themselves, finally understanding why humans were called Deathworlders. Sometimes, survival required more than advanced technology. Sometimes, you needed the kind of instincts that could only come from evolving on a world that tried to kill you every day. The pirate leader stepped forward, its movements unnaturally smooth. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm what we have become." Keitai chambered a round in his rifle. "Want to bet?" The research lab had become a nightmare of twisted metal and pulsing organic matter. Lieutenant Keitai kept his weapon trained on the Ravager pirate leader while assessing their situation. The creature that had once been a pirate moved with unnatural grace, its body shimmering with a metallic sheen that seemed to flow like liquid. Commander Nexus and his Marines formed a defensive circle, their weapons ready but largely ineffective against these new threats. The pulsing walls cast strange shadows across their silver skin, making them look almost ghostly in the dim light. "Your weapons cannot harm us," the pirate leader repeated, its voice echoing strangely. "We have evolved beyond mere physical form." Keitai noticed something the others missed. Small canisters lined up on a shelf behind the creature. Their markings matched the biological research data Jai Yun had mentioned. Whatever had transformed these pirates, the source was in those containers. Medical Officer Jai Yun. Keitai spoke into his comm, keeping his voice steady. "Are you seeing this?" "Yes," Jai Yun's voice came through clearly. "Those containers, they're holding the original strain. If they release it into the station's air supply." She didn't need to finish. Keitai understood the implications. The entire sector could be at risk if these transformed pirates escaped with their new biological weapons. The pirate leader seemed to sense their concern. "Fascinating, isn't it? Your scientists were trying to create weapons to fight us. Instead, they gave us the means to perfect ourselves." More creatures entered the lab, their bodies twisted into horrific combinations of flesh and metal. The squad was completely surrounded. Keitai counted 12 enemies, each more grotesque than the last. "Commander," Keitai said quietly, "those containers need to be destroyed. The extreme heat from an explosion should neutralize the biological agents." Nexus nodded slightly. "But we'll never reach them. They're too well guarded." Keitai had already formed a plan, though he knew the aliens wouldn't like it. It was the kind of plan that only a human would consider: direct, brutal, and likely to end badly for everyone involved. "I'll make an opening," Keitai said. "When I do, target those containers with everything you have." Before Nexus could respond, the pirate leader raised its arm. The limb transformed, metal and flesh flowing together to form a weapon. "Enough talk. Join us or become our test subjects." Keitai saw the attack coming before the others. The pirate leader's weapon began to glow with sickly green energy. At the same time, the other creatures started to move forward, their bodies rippling with the same metallic sheen. "Now," Keitai shouted. He charged forward, surprising both his allies and enemies. The pirate leader fired its weapon, but Keitai had already predicted its aim. He rolled under the energy blast, came up running, and slammed into the nearest creature with his full earthborn strength. The impact would have shattered normal bones, but these creatures were far from normal. Still, Keitai's momentum carried them both backward, creating a gap in the enemy line. The alien Marines, recovering from their shock at his actions, began firing at the exposed containers. But the pirate leader was faster than Keitai expected. It moved with impossible speed, its body flowing like mercury. A blade formed from its arm, glowing with the same sickly green energy as before. Keitai tried to dodge, but he was off balance from his charge. The blade struck him in the side, sliding through his armor as if it were paper. Keitai felt a burning sensation spread from the wound, unlike anything he had experienced before. The alien Marines watched in horror as the blade penetrated what they knew to be vital organs. Kita, Jae-yun's voice came through the comm, filled with professional concern and personal fear. The blade, it's coated with their bioweapon. The readings. Medical Officer Jae-yun didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone could see the green energy spreading from the wound, creating patterns under Kita's skin that pulsed with an unhealthy light. The pirate leader pulled its blade free, expecting Kita to fall. By all normal medical logic, he should have. The wound was fatal. Even without the bioweapon, no being should be able to survive such damage to their vital organs. But Kita didn't fall. He stood there, blood flowing from the wound, green energy crawling through his veins, and did something that shocked everyone in the room. He smiled. "You know what's funny?" Kita said, his voice rough but steady. "On Earth, we have a saying, 'What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.' But we have another saying too." He raised his weapon. "We also say, 'Take someone with you.'" The pirate leader's metallic face showed something close to surprise. It hadn't expected this. None of them had. In all their calculations, in all their experiments, they had never encountered a species that could take a fatal wound and keep fighting. Commander Nexus watched in amazement as Kita, despite his clearly fatal injury, began to move. Not just move. Fight. The humans' movements were different now, powered by something the aliens couldn't understand. Each step left a small puddle of blood. Each breath showed the pain he was in. But he kept going. "Impossible," one of the alien Marines whispered. His vital signs. "Shoot the containers," Kita ordered, his voice stronger than it should have been. "Forget about me. Complete the mission." The alien Marines hesitated for just a moment, torn between their training and their disbelief at what they were witnessing. Then Nexus gave the order, and they opened fire on the containers while Kita engaged the pirate leader in close combat. Blood flowed freely from Kita's wound, but he didn't slow down. Each movement was precise, economical, making use of what strength he had left. The pirate leader found itself being driven back, unable to understand how its perfect kill strike had failed. "What are you?" the creature demanded, its confidence shaken for the first time. Kita's response was simple: human. Behind them, the alien Marines' weapons finally broke through the creature's defense. Energy blasts struck the containers, causing them to rupture. The resulting explosion filled the lab with intense heat, just as Kita had predicted. The biological agents began to break down, their complex structures unable to survive the extreme temperature. The pirate leader screamed in rage as its carefully created weapons were destroyed. It lunged at Kita with renewed fury, its body transforming into a mass of blades and weapons. But Kita stood his ground, even as more of his blood stained the deck beneath him. He wasn't fighting to survive anymore. He was fighting to give his squad time to complete their mission. And in that moment, the alien Marines finally understood what it meant to be a Deathworlder. It wasn't just about being strong or tough. It was about being willing to keep fighting even when death was certain. Because sometimes, completing the mission was more important than survival. The research lab had become an inferno. The destroyed biological containers released waves of heat that melted the strange growths on the walls. Lieutenant Kita stood in the middle of this chaos, his wound pulsing with sickly green light, facing down the enraged pirate leader. Medical Officer Jae-yun's voice came through the comm system, professional calm masking her concern. "Kita, your vital signs are critical. The bioweapon is spreading through your system." "How is he still standing?" Sentinel asked, his voice filled with wonder. "Those readings, by all known medical science, he should be dead." Commander Nexus and his Marines continued to hold their position, watching as Kita fought with impossible determination. Blood dripped steadily from his wound, creating a growing pool at his feet, yet his movements remained controlled and purposeful. "You don't understand humans," Kita said, addressing both the pirates and his alien companions. His voice was rough but steady. "We evolved from persistence hunters. Our ancestors would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. The pirate leader struck at him again, its body shifting into new weapon forms. Kita blocked the attacks with his armor, though each impact sent waves of pain through his injured body. The green energy continued to spread under his skin, creating intricate patterns that pulsed with each heartbeat. Our bodies, Kita continued, ducking under a blade strike, developed something special. When we're injured, when we should stop, our biology does the opposite. We get stronger. To demonstrate his point, Kita launched a counterattack that drove the pirate leader back. His movements were different now, not slower, but more efficient. Each action was calculated to conserve energy while maximizing impact. Adrenaline surge detected, Jai Yun reported through the comm. His body is releasing emergency reserves of strength, but this level of exertion with these injuries. She didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to. Everyone understood that Kita was literally burning through his life force to keep fighting. The alien Marines watched in fascination as Kita's combat style adapted to his deteriorating condition. When his right arm began to weaken, he switched his weapon to his left. When his balance faltered, he used the momentum to power his strikes. Every limitation became a new tactical advantage. "Commander," one of the Marines called out, "the station's systems are starting to fail. The heat is damaging critical infrastructure." Nexus checked his tactical display. "We need to evacuate. Lieutenant Kita, we must retreat." But Kita had seen something the others missed. The pirate leader was moving toward a secondary console, its intentions clear. If it reached the controls, it could vent the station's atmosphere into space, dispersing whatever remained of the biological weapons. "Not yet," Kita said. He pressed his hand against his wound, then looked at the blood coating his glove. An idea formed in his mind, one that only a human would consider. The pirate leader reached for the console, but Kita was already moving. He crossed the distance between them with a burst of speed that shocked everyone, especially given his condition. The green energy under his skin flared brightly, and fresh blood flowed from his wound. "Your modified biology is impressive," Kita said to the pirate leader. "But you made one mistake. You designed it to fight against advanced weapons, enhanced beings, complex attack patterns." He smiled, showing teeth stained with his own blood. "You never considered something as simple as human blood." Before the pirate leader could react, Kita smeared his blood across the creature's metallic skin. The effect was immediate. The human blood, already altered by the pirate's own bioweapon, began to react with the creature's enhanced biology. The pirate leader screamed as its carefully engineered form began to break down. The metallic sheen of its skin dulled, and its ability to shift shape faltered. Kita had turned his own fatal wound into a weapon. "Impossible," the creature gasped. "Our enhancement process was perfect." "That's your problem," Kita said, his voice growing weaker, but his resolve remaining strong. "You tried to make something perfect, but survival isn't about being perfect. It's about being able to adapt, to keep going when everything else says you should stop." The other transformed pirates began to fall back, their connection to their leader disrupted by its deteriorating condition. The alien Marines seized this opportunity to secure the lab, their weapons now effective against the weakened enemies. Commander Nexus approached Kita, who was still standing despite all logic saying he shouldn't be. "The station is secure, Lieutenant. Medical evacuation is standing by." Kita nodded, but his attention remained on the pirate leader, which was still trying to reach the console despite its failing body. With one final surge of strength, Kita stepped forward and disabled the console with a well-placed shot. "You wanted to understand why humans are called Deathworlders," Kita said to the creature. "This is why. We don't just survive on a deadly world. We learn from it. Every poison teaches us resistance. Every wound makes us stronger. Every fight teaches us new ways to win." The pirate leader collapsed, its enhanced form finally breaking down completely. The other transformed pirates were quickly subdued by the alien Marines, their resistance crumbling without their leader's influence. Only then did Kita allow himself to feel the full extent of his injuries. The green energy under his skin had spread to cover most of his body, and his strength was finally beginning to fade. He stumbled, but Sentinel caught him before he could fall. "I don't understand," Sentinel said, helping Kita toward the exit. "How did you know your blood would affect them like that?" Kita managed a weak smile. "I didn't. But on Earth, we have a saying. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest one." Their complex biology couldn't handle something as basic as human blood, especially blood that their own weapon had changed. As they made their way back to the shuttle, the alien Marines looked at their human companion with new understanding. They had witnessed something extraordinary, not just physical strength or tactical skill, but the unique combination of intelligence, adaptability, and sheer determination that made humans such formidable warriors. Medical Officer Jai-Yun was waiting at the shuttle, her medical equipment ready. When she saw Kita's condition, her professional demeanor cracked slightly. "You impossible man," she said in Korean. "Only a human would think of using their own dying blood as a weapon." Kita's response was interrupted by a wave of pain as the last of his adrenaline began to fade. The green energy under his skin pulsed one final time, and darkness began to creep into the edges of his vision. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was Commander Nexus's voice. "Get him to Medical Bay immediately. I want to know how he did this. The Galactic Alliance needs to understand what we witnessed here today." The Medical Bay of the Stalwart Dawn hummed with activity 3 days after the battle at Research Station 7. Lieutenant Kita lay unconscious in a specialized medical pod, his body surrounded by both human and alien medical equipment. The green energy that had spread through his system had finally begun to fade, leaving behind intricate patterns on his skin that slowly disappeared. Medical Officer Jai-Yun stood beside the pod, carefully monitoring his vital signs. She had refused to leave his side except for essential rest periods, combining human medical knowledge with alien technology to keep him alive. Commander Nexus and several other alien Marines frequently visited the medical bay, drawn by a mixture of concern and curiosity. "His recovery defies our medical understanding," Jai-Yun explained to Commander Nexus, who had come to check on Kita's condition. "The bioweapon should have killed him instantly. Instead, his body adapted to it, used it, and is now slowly neutralizing it." Nexus studied the medical readings with interest. "How is this possible?" "Human biology is remarkably adaptable," Jai-Yun said, adjusting one of the medical devices. "Our immune systems are constantly learning and evolving. What doesn't kill us literally makes us stronger," as Kita said during the battle. The commander's silver skin shifted colors slightly, showing his thoughtfulness. "The Galactic Alliance has always viewed humans as primitive because of your violent world. Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps that violence shaped you into something extraordinary." At that moment, Kita's vital signs began to change. His heart rate increased, and his brain activity spiked. Jai-Yun moved quickly to check his condition as his eyes slowly opened. "Welcome back," she said in Korean, then switched to the common language for Nexus's benefit. "How do you feel?" Kita tried to sit up, but Jai-Yun gently pushed him back down. "Like I got stabbed by a bioweapon-enhanced space pirate," he said, his voice rough but carrying a hint of humor. "Did we succeed?" "More than you know," Commander Nexus replied. "The research station has been secured. The surviving pirates are in custody, and their enhanced biology is breaking down naturally. Your unconventional tactics prevented a catastrophic biological weapon release." Keita nodded slowly, then noticed the fading patterns on his skin. "The bioweapon. Your body is neutralizing it," Jai-Yun explained. "We've been studying the process. The combination of human adaptive biology and your combat-enhanced physiology created an unexpected reaction. Instead of killing you, it temporarily enhanced your natural abilities. At a tremendous cost," she added, her professional tone carrying a note of personal concern. You pushed your body far beyond its normal limits. The damage was extensive, but you're healing faster than expected. Sentinel entered the medical bay, carrying a datapad. The young alien Marine had been compiling reports on the battle for Galactic Alliance Command. Lieutenant, you're awake. The Command Council has been asking about you. About me? Kite asked, surprised. Commander Nexus took the datapad from Sentinel. Your actions have caused quite a stir in the Alliance. Many are reconsidering their views on human military capabilities. I have recommended an immediate expansion of the exchange program. The Council reviewed my report on your combat performance, Nexus continued, particularly your ability to continue fighting after sustaining what our medical knowledge classified as a fatal wound. They want to understand how humans can push beyond normal biological limits. Keita shifted in the medical pod, trying to find a more comfortable position. It's not just about biology. It's about mindset. Humans don't accept limitations easily. We evolved questioning everything, including death itself. That mindset saved all our lives, Sentinel said. The other Marines are still talking about how you used your own contaminated blood as a weapon. No one else would have thought of that. Jiayun checked Kita's latest medical readings. The Council is particularly interested in how human biology handled the bioweapon. They're calling it adaptive resistance, our ability to survive things that should kill us and become stronger from the experience. Speaking of the Council, Commander Nexus said they've approved a new joint training program. They want human instructors to teach our Marines about Earth combat techniques and survival mindset. Lieutenant Kita, once you've recovered, they've requested you to lead the program. Kaitai raised an eyebrow. They want me to teach Deathworlder tactics to Alliance Marines. They want you to teach survival, Nexus corrected. The battle showed us that advanced technology isn't always the answer. Sometimes, basic instincts and determination matter more than sophisticated weapons. A medical alert sounded, and Jiayun quickly checked the readings. Your body temperature is rising again. Time for more rest. She began adjusting the medical pod settings. Rest, Kite repeated with a slight smile. Another human survival trait. We heal faster than most species, but only if we allow ourselves time to recover. Commander Nexus nodded. We'll continue this discussion when you're stronger. The Council can wait. He turned to leave but paused at the door. Lieutenant, your actions have changed how the Alliance views humans. You've proved that being from a death world isn't a disadvantage. It's an asset we need to understand and learn from. As the commander left, Jiayun adjusted Kita's medication. He's right, you know. The Alliance has always seen humans as primitive because we come from a harsh world. Now they're beginning to understand that our greatest strength comes from that very hardship. Kaita felt the medication beginning to take effect. Evolution is funny that way. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years, and instead made us nearly unkillable. Before sleep took him, Kita saw Sentinel talking with other alien Marines outside the medical bay. They were practicing Earth combat stances, trying to understand the principles that had kept him fighting beyond what should have been possible. The sight made him smile. Perhaps the gap between Deathworlders and the rest of the galaxy wasn't as wide as everyone had thought. In the following weeks, as Kita recovered and began training Alliance Marines, his story spread throughout the galaxy. He became known not just as the human who survived a fatal wound, but as the bridge between two different approaches to survival. The Deathworlder who proved that sometimes the most primitive response could overcome the most advanced threat. The patterns left on his skin by the bioweapon eventually faded completely, but they left something more important behind. A reminder that strength comes in many forms, and that true survival often means embracing both the primitive and the advanced, the physical and the tactical, the individual and the collective. As Commander Nexus wrote in his final report to the Galactic Alliance Council, we have long considered humans to be primitive because they evolved on a world that tried to kill them. We now understand that this was their greatest advantage. While we evolved to avoid death, they evolved to push through it. Perhaps it's time we learned from those we once dismissed as simple Deathworlders.